Morning, this is Tina. Let's do some tangling this morning. And yeah, just relax, have fun. Let's get started. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a square tile, a Zentangle square tile. It's 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch. So if you do not have the Zentangle tiles, you can use, well, any paper, to be honest, card. You can cut it to 3.5 by 3.5 using your die cutting machines or just a ruler and a blade. But even, if you tangle in on just a piece of paper, that would be great. And the pens I'm going to use are micron pens. I'm not sure whether I'll use the O1 or the O5. It just depends on basically which direction my tangles go in. I'm also going to use a pencil. So this is an HB pencil and something to blend with. So I've got a tortillon here. You can use, if you don't have tortillons, you can use, for example, a cotton bud as well to blend with. If you come from the parchment world, then you can use your blending tool to blend with. So lots of options there. So let's get started. So first and foremost, let's take a moment, say thank you. Well, for today, appreciate the time we have to just be and yeah, just be, to be honest. I think I'm very grateful that I can share this. What's the word? I can share this love I have for the tangling process using the Zentangle method. For me, it's definitely a stress reliever. And I just love it, with no expectations of what I'm going to draw next, or this flower needs to look like a flower, or a leaf needs to look like a leaf. It's the freedom in my head that the tangling process gives me, which I'm ever so grateful for. So thank you. Yeah, have a thought, have a think about what you're thankful for today, and just take a moment. Okay. So, like I said, I've got the square tile. We're going to start with corner dots and put a border. So what the corner dots will do for us is, especially if you're worried about, for example, marking your paper, if you're using a really pretty paper and you're really worried um, about marking it, well, this is going to solve our problem where we're just putting the dots. And now we've started and ready to go. There we go, corner dots. We're going to put a border around it. This gives us a basic framework of maybe where we want to tangle in, this area we want to tangle in. It doesn't necessarily mean we need to stay in those lines. We can go outside the lines. So it's absolutely up to you. I'm just going to actually zoom out just a teeny tiny bit because the chances are that I will go off screen otherwise. And then if I'm doing something, oopsie, make everyone go dizzy. Yeah, so the chances are, I've lost my screen now that I was tangling on. Sorry, this is fun. Yeah, there we go. We've got a frame. Next, we want a string. A string basically is a guideline of, breaking down our frame into sections. You don't need to have a string, but I like to put one just to give me a rough guideline of where I might want to go. And to be honest, I have absolutely no idea where I want to go. So I'm just scribble something. I'm going to scribble maybe a ziggy-zaggy there. Maybe something there. Do I want something else? Yeah, let's put something else here. There we go. Two zigzaggy lines and something that looks like a circle but is not a circle. It's an orb. So I've broken down my tile into various sections, and now it's a case of basically just going with whatever we fancy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the O5, I think. Or should I go with the O1? Let's go with the O1. I think I'm going to do some organic tangles today and maybe a grid tangle. So basically organic tangle, and I need to grab a piece of paper. Just bear with me while I reach out so I can scribble on the paper as I go along. Okay, so the first organic tangles basically are something that are sort of free flowing. They'll remind you of nature, leaves, flowers. They have a mind of their own. They can go in any direction and just grow. So that's what I'm going to do. So my favorite organic, I wouldn't say favorite because to be honest, I've got a lot of favorites. But an easy one for me that's a really good filler, for example, is Flux. And there's two versions of Flux. There is the Flux version by Maria, and then there is the Flux version by Rick. They're the Zentangle founders. And I'm going to use Rick's Flux. So this is Rick. Oops, you a bit wobbly hand, but that's okay. It's still early morning for me. So I'm a bit shaky, but that's okay. So Rick's Flux starts off with a curve. Come around and taper it in the opposite direction. So once again, up, around, and taper it. You can enhance it by just a stroke in the middle and maybe a couple of dots. You can enhance it by a stroke in the middle and this. And I think I want a dot. You can leave it plain. It is absolutely up to you. If you want to take it further, you can always do this, break it in half, and do something in the middle. It just depends how you want to take the process. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to use this one here. And I think I'm going to have, where should we put it? Where should we start? I think I'm going to start here. So let's start in the corner here. Or shall I start in the middle and work? I'm going to start in the middle because I'm going to go this way and I'm going to go this way. So it'll just make it easier for me. We've got a string line. We do not necessarily need to stay within this string. So you see me probably go out of the string and that is okay. So up, around, and curve inwards, middle, dot, dot. Let's do that again. Let's come this way. So you can see it's very free flowing and it will go wherever you want it to go. Let's go this way. So you just take this wherever you want. They can go over, they can go under. It is absolutely up to you where you want your flux to grow. So for example, if I want to put one there, I'm going to go under there. I'm going to pretend it's following through there, over, and back under. And there you go. So you can see that one is now growing under. Which way shall we go? Just let it grow wherever you think it wants to grow and enjoy the repetition of this. Now I'm a very slow tangler. which I don't mind. Some of you may be faster. I also tend to draw quite small. I try very hard to draw larger, but generally speaking, it does not happen as much as I try. The larger your uh, for example, the larger the flux might be, any tangle, the more opportunity you have of maybe adding details if you wanted to add details, if you know. So this one is going to go this way. I'm following it in the air, bringing it around, and it's growing this way. You can see how we've got the shape happening. So I'm going to work a bit going this way now, and so your tile is definitely going to look very different depending on for example, how you drew your string, which direction your flux is growing in, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually break this because I don't want, I'm just going to put an orb. Well, actually, I'm going to put a few orbs. I'm going over a few times because I want a thicker border around it. But we're going to fill in the spaces anyway. Now they're growing bigger, aren't they? And that's okay too. Different sizes are good. In nature, we always have things in different sizes. Shall we grow? Let's grow this way. What we'll do is in the spaces that's left, we will add a few orbs as well. And well, and something. I don't know where everyone lives, who's watching. How's the weather your end? It's pretty gloomy here. And it's really lovely to be able to stay in. Just do something I'm enjoying. Not tackle the windy weather that's out there and all that. I'm just like basically, if you think something needs to, you need to put something else somewhere, go ahead, put it in. Let your hand make the decisions for you. I think if you're new to tangling, after you've done a few of these, I'm hoping that you're getting more comfortable with just drawing this shape. Let's put one underneath. And I think I'm going to call it done with this one here. Have a look, turn it round and see if you feel that there's anything else that needs to go anywhere. If you think it does, just put in another couple. Oopsie daisy, forgot to put the center in here. Do I want one more? Do I want? No, I think I'm going to stop there. Okay, like I said, so you can see I've gone over the string quite a few times here, and that is absolutely fine. What I'm going to do is in a few sections, I'm going to put orbs. They don't need to be perfectly round. And in the space between the orbs, I'm just going to ink it in, color it in. And this is going to add drama to the whole piece. So there we go. I may not add everywhere. So in this section where there's this space between the two, I'm just going to ink it in. If you want to put an orb, put an orb. If you don't want to put an orb, leave it out. Maybe a teeny tiny one there. And take your time inking it in, you know, if you see like spaces of white left, go back, just color it in. Absolutely love inking in, to be honest. I cannot put enough usually. I think I'll be quite happy just taking a tile, drawing just any shape, and with my pen, just coloring it in. I think that would amuse me too. Would keep me entertained. So maybe just ink this bit. And like I said, take your time. If it's quicker with a larger nib, I'm using quite a small one here. I'm using 01, but it would be quicker with the 05, well, a bigger one, a bigger nib. But where there's teeny tiny spaces, like at the moment where I'm tangling, 01 fits very well to go in between the spaces. Like I said, it's over here is quite a dull day, and I probably should have turned on the lights before sitting down to do this. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, definitely, so I can see better. I don't know how it's coming across on screen, sorry, on screen. And it's very windy too. It's very windy. Do I want an orb or do I not want an orb? Let's put an orb. Can we have too many orbs? No, we cannot. Well, I cannot. Maybe you can. Then don't put them in. This is your time. This is your piece. So you do what makes you happy. And the best thing about tangling is there is absolutely no mistakes. It's very easy for us to say, oh no, I made a mistake. Well, for me anyway, it's very easy to say, oh no, I made a mistake. I am quite a perfectionist. And sometimes, you know, I see things in my head, like how I want things to progress. And when it doesn't work out like that, I get quite, oh, I made a mistake. But there is no mistakes. More often than not, I do end up changing it to something that will, well, it becomes a new opportunity. So what I'm doing is I've done the infill bit, but I want to add just a few on the outside. So for example, I'm drawing one here, and in between that space, I'm coloring it in, but maybe I'll put 2 or 3 on this outside and color in there and in there. But what I'm going to do is I am going to add just a little bit of rounding. So rounding is basically, so for example, on this, if I draw a bigger one here, like this, you want to round just a little curve like this, and a little curve like this, and you color that space in. And you can see now that the orb is connected to the tangle. I'm not sure connected is the right word. I can't think of the word I want to use at the moment. So there we go. Let's put one here. So for example, if I didn't put the little rounding on the end, can you see it's there? It looks pretty. I prefer putting a rounding. I don't always put it on everything, but where I'm doing little orbs, I do like a little bit. Make them different sizes. I could do this forever. I don't think I'm going to ever stop at this rate. There we go. Round them off, round off the bit where they meet, and there. Okay, I think one on this end. Definitely, you know, keep turning your work around so it's comfortable for you as you're working, but as well as when you turn it around, you see your tile in at different angles, and that may help you decide whether you want to add any more orbs, for example, any more flux. So rounding off there, rounding off there. And do I call it done? Do I not call it done? I'm having too much fun. That's what it is. I think it's one of those tangles where I never know when to stop, because I just love flux and I love orbs between the flux, and I think I could do a whole tile of just flux and orbs. Actually, we could do that, couldn't we? Should we? No, we shouldn't. No, we should. And yes, for those of you who don't know me very well, I do talk to myself. I think most of us talk to ourselves. I know I do. Do you talk to yourselves? Okay, honestly, this is the last one. Otherwise, we're not going to get the rest of the tile done. Okay, so we've got that. What I'm going to now do is we've put a string of a circle here as well. So let's have a think what we want to do within the circle. What I'm going to do is, just to give this shape more solidity, I'm going to actually go and round off where all the flux meet. So for example, just in some places they'll be teeny tiny, in other places they might be a bit bigger roundings. And what this will do is it'll just, like, all the flux will be together, bound together. And it doesn't need to be everywhere, wherever you think it needs a bit of just solid togetherness. Can you say that? Solid togetherness? Pretty sure I need to get my glasses checked. Everything's fuzzy. Um, okay, there we go. So what we're going to do now is, let's see, what should we put? We've got the circle here, and I'm wondering, do I want to, I don't know what I want to do. Which are the tangles? How about another organic tangle, which I use very much together with flux, which is muka. And muka goes like this. So again, like the flux shape, you curve around, you bring it round, but this time you're going to make almost like an orb, stop, and curve it back around. Yeah, let's do that again. So around, almost like an orb, stop, little curve, and back downwards. So where it's coming like this, and you're stopping, you're going to curve it a teeny tiny bit and bring it down. So this would have been going like this, yes? Now you can do it so that this has got this curve here. You can do muka, where you bring it round, or like previous, but this time straight. So this is a point here, whereas this is a curve. So it just depends on which one you prefer. So that and down. Yeah. Okay. So where I've got the circle here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some muka to follow along that shape. Again, I don't need to stay on the string line. So around, almost in an orb shape, and back down. Um, I'll go the other way this time. Orb and around. So this time what's going to happen is I need to follow that around, because if I stop there, I can add something else if I want, or I can follow that around to the end here. Yeah, which is what I am going to do. So around there. Here we put another one. And once again, I'm just going with wherever my hand decides to go with it. I'll come the other way. And around. I want more. Do I not want more? I have no idea where this is going, but this is what I like about this whole process, is that freedom of no expectations of it's a bit wobbly, but that is okay, because by the time we shade and everything, honestly, it will be all okay. Now, I think in some places where I have inked it, it was still a little bit wet. So I've got a few like smudge marks. Once again, like I said, it's not going to matter. So here where I'm going to go here, it is going to go under the flux. So following this shape here, and I'm going to go around. And you can see they're all different shapes, well, the basic shape is the same, but they have different size heads, and they make it a little bit different from the other ones. I'm turning my tile around so I can see where I want to put the next one. And I mean, that is nothing like the string we drew, for example, and I'm quite okay with that. I quite like that. I think I need to stop again, don't I? Muka and Flux are two tangles that I just, yeah, I cannot stop. I just keep going and going because they're just so much fun. So this one here, what I'm going to do is, if I was coming this way, I'm just going to follow it through here and here, just so that there's something in there. And then under this one, just going to come around. And that's a teeny tiny one. Your tile is going to look different because where you've drawn your mucas, they will be different. So what I'm going to do is just to bring in some of this flux, I'm just going to add a few, not everywhere, but just a few flux. And now it's growing. How's that? Do I need to add more? I think I have tangled a lot more mucas and flux. I don't know if I have space for a grid tangle. I will try. It will probably be quite teeny tiny because I wanted to add some sort of a grid tangle, but I'm not sure. Seeing as there's not much enough, there's not a lot of space left. I want one more here. Okay, stop, Tina, stop. She really does not know when to stop, does she? The number of times I say to myself, less is more, a lot of circumstances, less is more. But she still keeps going. And on that note, I am definitely stopping. So now where we have spaces, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it in. You can add orbs in between if you wish. I'm going to add a few just to bring in the orbs from from this section we did, just to bring the whole design sort of together. And basically just ink in a lot of spaces as well. So again, where I'm connecting the muka to the flux, I'm doing little rounding. And I may add an orb in between and fill in the space. Oopsie daisy, slow down. And don't forget to breathe. I think sometimes, I don't know, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm just in the flow of things, I'm not always like thinking. No, I'm always thinking. Not necessarily drawing, but thinking about stuff. But we forget to breathe, depending on what we're thinking about. And apparently, breathing is good for our health. So don't forget to stop if you need to. Take a breath in, look outside. If you're sitting by the window, look around the room, the space you're working in. Have you got something in the space that I'll color that bit in, that you've made, for example, or what's it called, or decorated with something you just absolutely love. Take a moment to look at it and appreciate it. So I'm just doing a few rounding offs, a few orbs. I guess I'd have no idea where this went, but it's getting there. I keep going off screen, don't I? Even though I draw pencil marks on where I need to stay on the screen, I forget. I get so engrossed in the drawing that I completely forget on looking up at the computer screen to make sure I am within the screen area. I know when I first started recording, for example, my groovy workshops, I was told with practice, I'll get used to where to position my work, and it just becomes second nature. So I stay on screen. Has it happened? No. I can be a very slow learner. So where the orbs were, I'll just round those off. Okay, I'm going to call this done. And anything is only, well, you call it done only when you feel you're ready to call it done. If you think something else needs to go in on it, or you're enjoying the process a lot, you keep going. Now, I know I've mentioned groovy a couple of times. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say groovy, the groovy system is basically a system created by Clarity Stamps where the system makes it easier to do parchment craft. And so, yeah, look up parchment craft if you've not heard of parchment craft. It's a beautiful craft. You can create beautiful pieces, lace-like pieces, embossed work and everything. Okay, there we go. So that's what I have so far. Definitely looks nothing like what I thought it would in my head, but that's okay. I am going to actually put something in between. So just make sure that I'm just making sure basically, I've got everything. So this is our circle area and a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is in this area, I am going to create a little bit of a grid. So by grid, basically, it is what I am saying. It's just a grid. Now, if you're not sure about doing them straight, you can curve them. It really doesn't matter. Yes, as long as we've got little sections like that. So now this is quite small, and so I'm going to start maybe in the center, I think, and I have no idea where my center is. So I'm following it around here. I'm going to come down and it comes here, so I missed that line. If I come along here, I'm going to create another one there. It is about, no idea. It's about half, it's about 1.5 centimeters, I would say. But once again, it doesn't matter how wide your spaces are. They're just approximate, about 1.5 centimeters. If you think you want to use a ruler, go ahead. But a lot of things, oopsie daisy, a lot of things in that I do are freehand. I think the only time my mind goes into overdrive is when I'm doing circles. If I'm doing a circle, a tangle in a circle, that's when actually my mind goes in overdrive, because in my head, a circle definitely has to be a circle, but that's just me. I am going to break this up, and there's a lot of going underneath here. As you can see, there's a lot of going underneath here. So next one will be there. Let's see, it's about there. You don't see much, right? We want something in here that's going to be quite open. So what I'm thinking is, because this is quite busy, so I want this to be left quite open, not so much, but that's, and I'm not sure what I want to put in there as yet. What I might do is actually, yeah, I'm just going to break it up even more. I'm going to make them quite small because I want it to be quite an open space. So because I want it to be open space, I need, in my head, I need more squares. Not that that was a square, but that's okay. It ended up being a rectangle, but that's okay. They might as well end up being a combination of rectangles and squares. Oopsie daisy. There's more rectangles than squares, but that's okay. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is How about just some lines? I'm confused. Can you tell? I'm waiting for inspiration to hit me as to what I want to do in there. I'm quite tempted to go with just lines. Okay, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put little circles in here. Now, this is probably a fragment in the book, but I do not remember the fragment. If you come from the Zentangle world, then definitely, let me know. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tangles out there, and I definitely do not know them all. I do not remember the names of all. And I should actually write them down before I start videoing, to be honest. Happy. Sorry, it should have been going there. Have been there. Out have been there. So some of these circles will be underneath, so I don't need to put them in. And it gets very confusing, definitely, for me too, when I've put so much in here to know where I'm going. Okay, now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I am going to break this into a square. Okay, let's do it bigger. So we have, let's say an individual square looks like this. I've done a circle. I'm going to break this individually into this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to round, fill, round, fill. And you're going to do that on all the four sides. There we go, round, fill. Yeah. Now, depending on how much rounding you do, so for example, if I made my rounding larger, the space in the middle becomes narrower. So if I do this too large, okay, see, this is narrower than, for example, this one here, where it's wider. So it's personal preference. And then what I'm going to do is just align, round, round, dot, dot. And maybe if you want to round off where the lines meet, you can round it off with teeny, tiny, it's up to you. But it almost looks like a flower in there now. I love this fragment and I use it quite often. So little rounding there. And like I said, I'm going to do, now these are quite tiny squares. So I'm not going to do any rounding where the circle meets. And that's really pretty. Okay, so again, straight across, and then just round off the ends. And what you'll get is where the two squares meet, you get this little diamond shape like here, which is super cute. So always break that shape up into squares and round off where they meet outside, on the outside outline. So you can do all your middle squares. So all these squares first if you want, and then do all the rounding at the same time if you want. Or you can do what I'm doing, where I am doing working one square at a time. So some of these go underneath, so you're not going to have a lot of detail in them. Even the rounding, I mean, for example, here I don't need to round there because the straight is at the underneath the muka, so you just skip it. If you feel it needs rounding, then put it in. Maybe I did make them too small. Like I said, I always start off thinking, no, that's too big. And then I make things smaller, and then I realize maybe that was a bit too small. And in my head, I'm definitely, I definitely draw small. Not in my head, I mean, in real life too, I actually draw quite small. Because I do see things large. I don't know, do any of you find that I think is it perspective that's lacking in my head? I can just not tell sizes. Sometimes, I mean, it's not the other way around. If it's small, I don't say to myself, it's too small. I'm happy with small. But if it's big, my head definitely tells me that's too big, even though it might not be. Am I making sense? I mean, in a lot of circumstances, to be honest, it isn't big. But my head tells me it's big, but my head rarely tells me it's small until after I start something. Well, when I'm going towards the end. And by then you really can't change it. Well, you could, I guess. But I'm not sure how, but there's always ways. New opportunities. I'll come back and put the center in a minute. Okay. I should have done them as I go along because I do. That was the wrong one. Well, now that I've started, you see, it was supposed to be this square, but that's okay. So I'll just continue that through, but be more careful. This is why I'm better doing for me, so I don't get confused, one square at a time. These are teeny tiny. Super cute though. Nothing like seeing double when you know your prescription for your glasses needs changing. If you've worked as tiny as me, because I did tell you to make the square smaller, definitely try this grid pattern with larger squares. It is a really, really pretty grid pattern. So for example, if you were doing a monotangle with this grid pattern, you could do it like on the whole tile, but maybe with, try maybe 8 sections. Breaking up your tile into maybe 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6 by 6. That'll give you a nice size too. Yep, definitely needed to be bigger. If you're bored watching me do this now, you can fast forward. Because it's just repetition. But I think that is what attracts me to tangling. It is the repetition. Somehow it clears my mind. I don't need to overthink anything. So my hand, after doing the first few, have learned what strokes I'm doing on this grid, and it just does it automatically now. So I'm not thinking too much anymore. I think the fact that they were not all squares, they were all different shapes and sizes. As much as I tried to do squares, a square grid, I think it's made it a bit more quirky. It looks like netting in the middle, but everything is not identical, and I quite like that. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't have liked the square, I would have liked the square too. But it didn't work out like that. And I do like the quirkiness of the different squares and rectangles that I formed. Now what did I do? So this one goes there. So because I have a lot of tangling here now, this is where I need to pay a little bit more attention as to where I'm going. So I'm doing the ones where I know definitely where they go, and then where I'm going to be unsure about where it would go, well, I'm going to make it up. So now I'm beginning to get unsure. This way. That's square. That's this way. Pretend it's there. And a lot of the times, well, for me, I have got such small spaces here that it's really not going to matter at this point, because we're going to add some shading yet to this. That would have been there. So it's this square here, it's this square here. Try to follow it a little bit, but you know, it's okay. So I'm just going to create another one here because I don't know which way it goes anymore. It's all too confused in my head at this point. But you see, it doesn't, because there's so much happening, it really, oopsie, doesn't matter. Okay, so that's what we have. And I'm going to leave that as is. I don't know if I want anything else. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this here, and I don't know how it's going to work. You can leave yours as is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like this is spilling over out of here. So I'm going to create. So if I was to take this, shall I not? Shall I have it spilling over? I don't know. I quite like it the way it is as well. I want to spill it over. So I'm turning it around to see. I want to spill. I wouldn't say spill, but I'm gonna, let's go down first. And a bit like this. And you can see I'm not straight, and that's okay. I'm gonna fill this space up. And I'm gonna fill this space up. So we've got some of that. So I'm going to just break that into little sections and do the same as the grid. So circles in the middle. And then break those squares up into squares. Rounding on the ends. But then so that I don't forget, let me put those in so I know which is my next square. So round. So we've got some of this that's coming out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same on this side. So you can see I'm not precise with where my lines went, and break that into squares, rectangles, odd shapes. It's okay. That was a bit teeny tiny. That's okay. This has to be an impression where it gets really tiny. It just needs to be an impression. We're not aiming for perfection. I think I definitely, well, my head says, no, my heart says go for perfection, but my head more often than knows there is nothing like perfection. Well, they might be, but what is perfection, especially in art? Center bits. I guess I missed the circle completely there, but just make the circle bigger. As much as, I want to go through the middle of the circle. It doesn't always happen like there. It doesn't always happen. Make the circle bigger. There are no mistakes. There we go. Okay, let's have a look and see. Do I want to add anything else to that? I quite like the look of that. I'm not sure I want to add anything. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and let's do some shading. So I'm going to use my pencil and my blending tool, my tortilla. So to shade this, I'm going to start with the flux. So I'm just going to add a little bit on the ends of all the muka, on the tips of all the muka. And it just needs to be a teeny tiny bit, because when we blend this, it is going to spread. The other thing I'm doing is where a muka goes. So this one is over this one. So the underneath one, where it meets the one that's over, I'm just doing a little bit of shading under there. So for example, here, this is underneath on the lower muka and the ends. Let's put shading on all the muka flux. Sorry, not muka flux. On all the flux. So all the base as well as where it goes underneath. And I'm trying to I'm trying to put them everywhere where I think they are. But the chances are I will forget where they all were, and I'll have to come back and add them in, which is okay. This goes underneath there. This goes underneath here. And it's just a little bit of scribble. My pencil is quite blunt. If I had a sharper pencil, I would make sure I'm using it at an angle like this to shade rather than upright like this, because I don't want any harsh lines. So it's something to keep in mind. If you have a sharp pencil, use it at a lower angle. So all the flux, I think I've done. If I've missed, we will come back and put it in. So the next thing we want to do is we want to blend this. So using the tortilla, and I'm going to use it at sort of a low angle rather than the point, because I don't want to damage the paper. So I'm going to hold it like this, and little round circular movement, bring that out. So can you see how where we're beginning to blend it out compared to here? This looks very it looks very pretty, if I may say so myself. I think the shading adds magic to your design. For me, it's magic. It brings it to life. So where it was underneath and I had added the shading, again, I'm going to blend that. And you can see how now this leaf has gone underneath this one. This bit here goes underneath. So when I blend it, so this leaf, flux is sitting on top of this. So let's do a bit and then I will show you one half from the other half, which I haven't blended out yet. Okay, so can you see here where we've blended it compared to here we haven't blended it. Let me bring it closer. And you can always go back and add a bit more. There's already color on my tortilla, so I don't need to add more. I can still use it to add more color in places where I feel it may need more shading. And again, once again, as you turn your tile around, you will see, depending on where the light is hitting, whether you need, oopsie daisy, my pencil's gone underneath, whether it needs more shading in certain places. And you can add it in. So I'm always going back and forth, back and forth. As I turn it around, I have a quick glance around and see if I need to add anything else anywhere else. So over here, I've just noticed a blank space, and I think it would have probably gone like this in here with the grid pattern. I'm making it up basically. It needed something in there, so. The Zentangle tile has got a little bit of texture to it. I love the feel of when I'm tangling the texture under the paper. But you can always try on smooth paper and see if you prefer that. If you don't have Zentangle tiles, for example, have a little comparison to see what works best for you. A lot of the times when I'm using my dies, for example, to die cut various shapes, I use, for example, textured card or watercolor card if I'm going to be adding watercolor. So there's lots of options. You can tangle in a notebook, for example. If my notebook paper is smooth paper. So great way to compare what you may prefer. I think I've done all the flocks and I've just noticed this square here again. Would have gone there. Go. Um, yeah, let's go back and forth, back and forth. So we've added a bit of shading there. Now let's add a bit of shading on the muka. So for the muka, where they are under the flocks, for example, here, I'm going to add a bit there. And do you see? Now it's gone underneath here. So we're going to do that everywhere first, and then come and do the muka heads. So wherever the ends go underneath, we're going to add some shading. And then, like I said, we'll come back and add the shading on the muka heads in a bit. I'm just working on the stems at the moment. I find when I break down my shading into sections like this, I get less confused. But you can add your graphite everywhere where you want to add shading if you prefer, and then do all the blending. There is no right or wrong. I like to work in sections when I'm doing shading. Okay. So now for the heads, what I'm going to do is I am going to put, let's see, let's choose a nice, this big one. So where there is the curve like this, I'm going to put just a little bit away from the outline, a little C like this. And I'm going to take my tortilla and I'm going to spread that. There's lots of different ways of shading them, but for for today, that this is how I'm shading. And as I do them more, you'll see that I shade them in lots of different ways. You can bring it a little bit down the stem if you wish to shade it. You can see how by adding these on the heads compared to this, it begins to pop now. So where it is the bulb bit, I'm going to add little C's to where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and add all the C's first. And then do the shading. So it's where the bulb is going outwards. And here we go. This one here. And then that shade. Keep turning your work so that you know it's comfortable. I prefer to shade if I'm shading inwards, so I like my wherever I've put my pencil to be on the outside as I shade inside. So pencil outside, and as I'm shading inwards. And once again, you know, it has to be comfortable for you. This is how I prefer to do it. So give it a try and see if it works for you. it's weird because when every time I come to the shading part and I start shading the in whichever tile I'm tangling, I always then think, okay, there was definitely more of this than I thought there was. As I'm drawing them, I don't realize. But when you come to shading, you keep turning your tile around and add a bit more, add a bit more. You think, okay, I put a lot of these. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you just come to realize how much you can actually fit on a tile. I mean, even in the bijou tiles, which are quite tiny. I'm not sure what size they are. I think they are an inch and a half or big. I'm not quite sure what size, but they're tiny. They're tiny like this. They might be no, an inch would be too small, I think. Probably an inch and a half or 2 inches. Might be 2 inches. But even on those, you can fit quite a bit, and it's surprising how much you can fit. Okay, what I'm going to do for the netting is I'm not going to do individual, but on the inside, I'm going to follow it around all the way around on the inside of where we tangled the grid. And we're going to make it quite dark. And what that will do is it will make it look like it's underneath this. So take your time, follow it around. The orbs I will do last. If you have a gel pen, a white, oopsie daisy, I didn't want to go on that orb, but that's okay because we're going to be shading it anyway. If you have a white gel pen, that is great. We will use that. Create little teeny tiny pearls. And don't forget this little bit here. This is going to be quite dark on the inside. I'm just following the outline before I blend that. Okay. So now when we blend again, I prefer working inwards. So I'm blending the line and then coming in. I'm blending on the line and then bringing the shading in. On your work. It's really important, if you've done a lot of inking, to let your ink completely dry before you do the shading. And now you can begin to see where this design, our organic design, is sitting over the top of this grid pattern we did. I'm gonna come in a little bit, not a lot. So sorry, I needed to stop for a bit, so I stopped the recording for just a couple of seconds as the doorbell had rung. Okay, there we go. And what I'm gonna do is on this as well, just along the edges. And then like that. So there we go, that's what we have. Right, the orbs. The orbs, I'm going to keep them very simple. So with the pencil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do little circles on the inside of all the orbs, just little teeny tiny circles. So some of them are just a dot really. So for example, these are just dots. And sometimes you don't even need to put them in because your tortilla will have enough pencil on them to just put a teeny tiny bit of shading if you need to without having to put with your pencil. Oh, this one here. Send it the others. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, let me show you on this big one, is just going to rub it, not go right to the edge, leave some white space around. Yes, leave some white space around. Let's do another one. So round and round and round, coming around, leave some white space. So do those on all of them. The tiny ones are too tiny, so don't stress over them. Just give them a little notch with your tortilla. And what you'll find is, because we've got a lot of shading on, it's going to be picked up on your, my fingers are so dry. Note to self, next time, cream. Use cream before taping. What was I saying? I was saying something. Don't remember. Yeah, then you get a lot of graphite on your back of the fingers. So if you're worried about getting graphite on the rest of your tiles, you can always put some kitchen towel down under your palm, so it's not rubbing. I mean, I don't mind graphite getting in other places, but the times when we want it to be clean. Clean is clean a word on a tile on the outside, in which case, you know, I would use a kitchen towel just underneath my palm. What I'm doing is, where I had drawn the original circles, I'm just going in there with my graphite again, just drawing a circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this time, because what it's going to do is it's going to give me that dark area in the center for my pearls when I use, and you'll see it pop. Oh, got this one. You'll see it when I put the gel pen. what I mean. Yes, I think I've got them all there. Okay, so white gel pen. You can use any white gel pen, Sakura gel pen. There's lots of white gel pens. I'm using this one. It's a new one that I've picked up from somewhere. I can't remember. And I'm quite liking it. Okay, so we've got our circle. So what we want to do is, and let me do it on one, just outside where we've got the dark, I'm gonna do 2 dots. You see, just 2 dots. So again, just outside the darkest bit, 2 dots. And some of them may be too tiny. You may be able to just touch your gel pen or just put a teeny touch, just lightest touch, just one. That's enough. It's just an impression that there's tiny pearls here. And the lightest touch I can get, you know, teeny tiny dots if I need to. And wipe off the tip of your pen if you think it's becoming too thick. The way I think I cannot get more than well, more than 1 dot, I'm just doing 1 dot. I'm just wiping the tip off when it's becoming too thick. I've done my tie around so I don't smudge the gel pen. Have a look, see if you've missed any. The gel pen takes a little bit longer to dry, so be careful you don't smudge. You don't put your hand on it. But still it'll dry pretty quickly. So there we go. You see the little pearls? I love doing these pearls. They're my new obsession, to be honest, doing pearls. So that's our tangling, our shading. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to just put our name at the back. Well, let's sign it first. So before I sign it, I'm going to turn it around and see which orientation I now want it. So I drew it with this orientation in mind, but you know, once you finish tangling and you turn your tile, you just see it very differently, to be honest. So have a look and see which direction you prefer it in. I think I prefer it the direction I started off with, which is this. So I'm just going to sign it somewhere. I'm going to turn around and I'm just going to put my name, today's date, which I have no idea. What is today's date? Anyone got any idea? What's the date today? 6th or 7th? All my gadgets are being used, so I have no idea. I think it's the 6th. If not, I will change it later. I was going to put April. We're not in April, we're in February. So what have we used? We have used Flux, Rix Flux. We've used Muka. We've put orbs. and a tangle, which I have no idea. I had something similar somewhere, but I have no idea. So the netting is some fragment, but sorry, I can't remember it at the moment. And thank you for joining me today. So there we go. Turn your work around, have a look at it, appreciate your work. And I love those little pearls. I really like the pearls. I think I want to do a whole tile with just pearls. How cool would that look? Thank you very much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing if you do recreate this tile. Tag me on social media so I can see it. And thank you for joining me today. Bye.